Good morning and welcome. My name is John Gorney, Intervention Analyst for the Board of Registered Nursing. I will be facilitating today's meeting. Today is Friday, September 12th, 2025, and it is now 8:40 a.m. I officially call to order the meeting of the Intervention Evaluation Committee. The committee's purpose is to evaluate those RNs requesting participation in the intervention program according to the guidelines prescribed by the board, and to make recommendations to the program manager regarding the terms and conditions of the intervention agreement, including treatment, supervision, and monitoring requirements. Beginning with agenda.
Are you able to hear us? Okay.
Yes, just fine.
Thank you. Beginning with agenda item 1.0, Chairperson, would you please introduce yourself and your role? Then we'll go around so each committee member can introduce themselves and their role.
Hi, I'm Luann LeMay. I'm a registered nurse. I am a nurse member of this committee and I function as the chair.
My name is Valerie Milner. I'm a public member of the committee.
I'm Alexis Blount, nurse member.
Thank you for the introductions. A quorum has been established at 8:41 a.m. Item 2.0, we will proceed to agenda item 2.0, general instructions for public participation. Board moderator, would you please share general instructions on how members of the public can participate during public comment periods?
Good morning. This is the IEC moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature, now known as Slido. When the committee reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on and members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. I will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. I will not give a warning as your time approaches. I will mute your microphone and will announce that your time has exceeded the time allotted. I will then proceed to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. When your turn comes, you will be prompted to unmute. If your question can be answered, the committee will respond accordingly. When making your comment, speak about anything you believe is important for the members to know. Remember, committee members cannot address any item not on the agenda, items not on the agenda at that moment, and items that you would like to add to a future meeting or items that will be discussed later on the agenda will be discussed at the correct times during the meeting. We will also query our in-public location in BRN HQ. I will provide a brief reminder at this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when committee members or BRN staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will mute your microphone automatically.
Okay. We will proceed to agenda item 3.0, public comment for items not on the agenda, items for future agendas. Please note that the committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Board moderator, would you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired and will move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. Do we have any in-person representation in your location?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Would the committee like to discuss any items to add to future agendas? No. Okay. Thank you. We will now proceed to agenda item 4.0, discussion and possible action, voting for a new chair and vice chair. Does the committee have any questions regarding this item? No. Okay. We will first start with chair. Are there any nominations for chair?
Valerie.
I would nominate Luann. As
I already
registered
am chair.
Right, but this is for
Oh,
next,
okay.
this is for next year.
For the next.
Okay.
And second that.
So I'm happy to nominate Alexis. to do that.
Great, thank you. So there was a motion.
So I move to have Luann remain chair for the coming year.
Okay. And we have a second from Alexis. Do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Board moderator, can you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you'll have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation there in your location in BRNHQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Before the committee votes, is there any additional discussion? Okay, we will take a vote by roll call. When a member hears their name, please vote yes, no, or abstain. Ms. LeMay?
Yes.
Ms. LeMay, yes. Ms. Blount?
Yes.
Ms. Blount, yes. Ms. Milner?
Yes.
Ms. Milner, yes. So 3 yes votes. Congratulations. Next, we will move to nominations for vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I move that Alexis Blount.
I second.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Perfect. Board moderator, can you please open for public comment? I just need to speak a little louder.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation there in your location. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Before the committee votes, is there any additional discussion?
No.
Okay. We will take a vote by roll call. When a member hears their name, please vote yes, no, or abstain. Ms. LeMay?
Yes.
Ms. LeMay, yes. Ms. Blount?
Yes.
Ms. Blount, yes. Ms. Milner?
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Moving on to agenda item 5.0, approval of previous meeting minutes. Have all members had a chance to review the previous minutes, and are there any questions? Do we have a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes?
I move to approve the previous meeting minutes.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Milner is second. And board moderator, would you please open for public comment?
We will be We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate if they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment."
Board moderators, we wait for public comment. Jaspreet and John, I don't know if you guys can work on the audio in the room there. John sounds good. Jaspreet, you sound good. The 3 members, we can see their mouth move. We can hear them speak, but it's very, very quiet. You can't really make it out. So if they can get closer to the mic, that would be perfect. Or if they can speak louder.
Thank you, we will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation there in your location. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. And before the committee votes, is there any additional discussion? No? So we have a motion by Luann to approve the minutes. We will take a vote by roll call. When a member hears their name, please vote with yes, no, or abstain. Ms. LeMay?
Yes.
Ms. LeMay, yes. Ms. Blount?
Yes.
Ms. Blount, yes. Ms. Milner?
Yes.
Ms. Milner, yes. Minutes have been approved. Moving on to agenda item 6.0, information only about intervention program updates. Management continues to work with Premier Health Group, attending all intervention evaluation committee meetings, providing education to IEC members, and identifying possible gaps in regulation for the intervention program. The intervention program manager attended the NCSBN Discipline Case Management Conference on April 29th and 30th. Education topics of interest included regulatory substance use monitoring programs for nurses, program participation post-COVID-19 pandemic. During the August 21st through 22nd, 2024 Board of Registered Nursing meeting, the board directed the BRN executive officer to work with the executive management team and the intervention program manager to 1, suspend the imposition of the requirement that participants work in direct patient care unless there is additional evidence of patient safety issues. 2, suspend the imposition of the requirement that participants work passing narcotics unless there is additional evidence of patient safety issues. And 3, if an IEC recommendation extends length in the program beyond 3 years, the executive officer must review and examine the evidence.
Would you mind repeating the first point?
Yep. So number 1, suspend the imposition of the requirement that participants work in direct patient care unless there is additional evidence of patient safety issues.
Relating that to a case that we're going to be discussing.
Yep.
today.
In any cases in which either and or both of those requirements were the only requirements preventing a participant from successfully completing the program, and where those requirements are removed pursuant to this motion, the board directs executive management to work with the intervention program manager to have such cases presented to an IEC as soon as practicable for consideration of program completion. At the February 26 to 27, 2025 board meeting, the board directed the BRN executive officer to work with intervention evaluation committees to provide guidance on the application of Uniform Standard 12, including criteria number 4, which does not necessarily require the participant to work as an RN. However, IECs have discretion to impose the requirement when they feel the specific case warrants it. IEC vacancies and recruitment. The board continues to recruit IEC members with knowledge and experience in treatment of substance use disorder, treatment, or mental illness. At the February 26, 27, 2025 board meeting, the board voted to allow board staff to reestablish up to 5 additional IECs. Additionally, there are currently 5 IEC member vacancies. To apply for an IEC position, interested parties can find the application on our website at rn.ca.gov/intervention. IEC outreach. The board emailed 539 outreach materials to individual nurses this quarter as of 6/30/2025 and 1,312 this calendar year. Future meetings. Members are asked to review the tentative schedule for future IEC meetings and make necessary travel arrangements. IEC meetings, which require a minimum of 3 members to attend, are essential for reviewing reports and requests from registered nurses in the intervention program. These meetings must comply with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act requirements. Our next IEC 12 meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 2nd, at the Department of Consumer Affairs Pearl Room, 1747 North Market Boulevard, Suite 100, Sacramento, California, 95834. Madam Chair, will you please call for any discussion?
Is there any discussion regarding the meeting date going forward?
I have a comment to make about some of the other things that John read to us. Would it be possible to get a hard copy of those changes regarding completion of the program?
They are included in the board materials under this item. Exactly what John stated.
So this entire material. So the question was whether or not a hard copy could be provided, and so that is. I'll show you where it is. It's provided in the links. Yep. So we'll resolve that. Any other discussion?
Not from my standpoint. We do. The dates are identified for the year going forward, though, for 2026. Correct? I saw them somewhere.
Yep. And that will be a discussion item as well.
All
Yep.
right.
Agenda item. Okay. Board moderator, can you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for a comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I would like to remind you as your time approaches, I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation there in your location. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Agenda item 8.0.
7.0.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. 7.0. Information only regarding requirements for participation and completion of the intervention program, including possible requirements of working in positions involving direct or indirect patient care and or furnishing of or administering narcotics to patients. Update from Executive Officer Loretta Melby on review of individual program participant requirements.
Thank you. I am Loretta Melby, or Lori. I am the board's executive officer. I assumed this role back in February of 2020 as the acting executive officer, and then in June became the appointed executive officer by our board of that same year. So I've been in this role now for about 5 years. I am an RN and working as directed by our board just over a year ago, after we received complaints of requirements being put out for people to complete the intervention program by passing narcotics and working in direct patient care in addition to their roles that they were already serving in. So at that point, our board, after extensive public comment, asked me to do a deep dive and start reviewing everything. At that point, Maximus was the vendor We did meet with Maximus, we met with participants, we met with IAC members and nursing support group facilitators, we met with board staff. And then presented out at each subsequent board meeting, as well as reinstated the Enforcement Intervention Investigations Committee, which is a board committee, and started doing work within that committee as well. So as part of that, we brought that information to the August meeting and did an extensive report out of what we were hearing where it was occurring and what the uniform methods, disciplinary guidelines, are statutory and regulatory requirements. And just started going over kind of what we're hearing and what is actual. If you ever have some downtime and you want to listen to that August meeting, it is on our website. I recommend watching it at 2x speed. It is a lengthy meeting, probably 8 hours or so, and that will get you through it. But you'll understand kind of the discussions and what's going on with that. At that meeting, our board members voted on the motion that you see in your packet, and it is on page 10. And that is also the motion that John read in the intervention update on the previous meeting agenda. The main one was to suspend the imposition that required that participants work in direct patient care unless there's additional evidence of patient safety issue. What was being reported is that there was a blanket requirement that anybody who had diverted medications or was a DUI going to work, leaving work, etc., which showed that there was possible work impairment, must work in a direct patient care role that passed narcotics. When the board looked at the statutes and what the purpose of the IEC committee and what the purpose of the intervention committee was, it's that to rehabilitate and not kind of get into making them kind of rework the system, if that makes sense. And I'll kind of go into that a little bit more. Uniform Standards 12 says that in order for completion, they have to demonstrate that they're able to practice safely. And so let me pull that language up, and I'm not sure if you guys have that in front of you, but I'll read it off directly on what the language specifically states. And so in that language, it says that they demonstrate that he or she is able to practice safely. Within the discussions with the board, the issue that was causing the person to not be able to practice safety was the mental health issue or the substance use disorder issue. It was not that they didn't know how to be a nurse and they were having patient care errors or not picking up on assessments and doing that. They were struggling with an issue. As long as that issue has been monitored and they're working their program and they're maintaining their sobriety, as demonstrated by the other options in 12, where it says that they sustain the compliance in the terms of the disciplinary, if applicable. We know that's not applicable for ours. Demonstrate successful completion of the recovery program. Demonstrate a consistent and sustained participation in activities that promote and support the recovery, including but not limited to ongoing support group meetings, therapy, counseling, relapse prevention plans, community activities, and continued sobriety for 3 to 5 years. When those are demonstrated, that is when a lot of times you guys have a clinical evaluation that says they're safe to return to practice. You guys are able to progressively increase their access if they choose to do so. So when they first start into the program, they're pulled out of patient care, they're pulled out of being an RN. They can't practice a lot of times at all while they are getting their initial drug testing done, while they're getting set up in support and proving that they can maintain their sobriety. Then they typically get released to able to work as an RN, but they're limited and you guys do not allow them to work in a RN bedside kind of patient care role. Then as you guys are monitoring them and working with them and watching their progress, you then release them to patient care. If they continue to demonstrate compliance and everything that is required of them, then you feel comfortable to then release them to having access to narcotics if that is something that they choose to do. With how vast the practice of nursing is, and many people being out of bedside care for quite a long time, adding the imposition that they have to actually change specialties, go into direct patient care, pass narcotics, is something that our board felt was not necessary. And they did put in the caveat because it is a patient safety and public protection board, that if you guys have a reason that has popped up that that showed that there were some patient safety issues, you absolutely could impose that, but it needed to be documented in a form that we could pull the evidence and say, yes, the evidence supports this decision. So our staff in August, I think it was October 1st of last year, or in September, started working with IEC committees and letting them know about this motion that the board put forward. Maximus sent out an email to all IEC members and let them know of the board motion. It came from Virginia Mathis, the prior person with Maximus, and let you guys know what that board motion was. And then I started receiving intervention participant recommendations that said they're going past 3 years. They are required to work and pass narcotics in order to complete. And with that, I did find some of that information that was needed to justify those requests. I also came across many that did not have that information that was needed to justify that request that came from the IEC. When I received those that came from IEC that did not have the documentation to support the requirement to go into direct patient care and pass narcotics before completing our program, I sent them back to the IEC for reconsideration. At the last board meeting in August, we presented data, and there were 56 reviews that have been sent to me in the past year since that request has been put forward by our board to stop requiring that. Of those 56 reviews that were sent to me, 19 have been approved. So 19 I was able to look at and show that there is documentation and we can support this and move forward. Of 31 of those, though, they went back to the IEC. There was no documentation. There was nothing that substantiated the requirement that the IEC committees were recommending that they work in direct patient care and recommending that they work with narcotics. So at that point, seeing this data, we started working together as staff and saying, what can we do to get this information out to IECs to facilitate conversations? So if you guys have questions, you have comments, if you're seeking direction, what can we do that? Obviously, we have to abide by Bagley-Keene. And so we started to look at whether or not we can do a massive IEC meeting and bring everybody together. That was not feasible. So at this point and going forward, I am jumping into every single IEC meeting, and we are starting an open session, and we are going to provide this training and have any kind of question answers that you might have. Open it up to the public if they have any questions, any questions or comments either, and then we can go from there. So at that point, do you guys have any questions regarding the board's request to stop using direct patient care requirement and passing narcotics as a requirement for completion? Unless there's additional evidence that supports that in the form of patient safety.
I don't have this is Valerie Milner. I don't have a specific question on that, but I was wondering if this suggests that patients or participants in the program need to work in a nursing role at all.
that has been up for debate, right? There's nothing that specifically states that they need to work in a nursing role at all. And when you have to take into various situations like ADA accommodations, if if they have health reasons where they can't, what we don't want to see as a board is that someone is permanently stuck in this role, in this program, and they can't get out for means that are of no direct result to what they are doing. And so there have been moments where there have been reviews, multiple reviews, and people have completed without working in a direct patient care role. They have also had some moments where I believe we had one or two over this last year that did complete without working as an RN. They had some special circumstances that had to be considered. They worked with IECs. IECs put a plan together to show how that would be demonstrated, that you would still ensure that there was evidence that they could return to work safely if they chose to in the future. It just at that particular moment, they were not able to complete that. Whether it was from the requirements for monitoring for our program, we try to work around that and have that not be the sole issue as to why they can't complete, right? Because we do hear that many, many times is I can't find an employer that will work with me with the monitoring that I have. Well, that's not correct. We have a lot of employers that will work with you with the monitoring that's required. And in fact, this monitoring of our intervention program is much less work-related than our probationers. And all of our probationers are required to work in order to complete the probation section. So we know that there are employers out there that do work with them. There is typically some other kind of outstanding requirements, typically health-related and potentially like ADA kind of issues that come into play that we're able to work with at that point.
This is Luann.
Yes.
I'm questioning, so in a scenario where they are not necessarily going back to work as a nurse in any capacity, do they still have to work at something to be able to pass, the program?
So there's different interpretation on that. And again, that's why we would have to, if we came across a situation where they're not working at all, that there is no employment, whether it's RN or not
Clerk,
RN
or yeah.
related clerk, yeah. We would have to take that and look at that as a case by case situation and say, are we able to find other evidence that would show that they can return safely and complete all the other requirements with our board?
Okay.
There is, so far,
Sorry, go ahead.
So if there is a special situation that pops up and they cannot work at all, we've had people come through that are on cancer treatment and they just are trying to complete before they pass away, essentially, right? Like they want their license, they're doing everything
Established, correct.
Too sick to work in any capacity. They need to focus on that. It would not behoove us to keep them in a program just waiting for them to get healthy enough to return to work when they may never get healthy enough to return to work in any capacity. That license, when we issue a license at our board, we issue a license saying they can practice. You never have to use that license to practice. So when we issue that license, we do look to meet our basic requirements of can you practice safely. When that is done through the licensing process of do you have the knowledge and experience? Have you passed your NCLEX? That is an entry-level safe practicable nurse. All of our intervention participants have already met that requirement. Then you have to look at what made them unsafe. And what made them unsafe in their specific situation. Was it a mental health issue? Was it a substance use disorder? Was there some kind of an issue that played in there? And then when we have evidence that we can put in that supports that says we have a clinical eval, we've watched them maintain their sobriety, they're working their system, they're appropriately interacting, and they're setting in their own personal guide so that they can do inner circle activities, outer circle activities. They can monitor all of that. They know how to work within that system. And that they are safe. If that is able to be demonstrated to you all, you do have the ability to make those decisions. That is, of course, not the routine. The routine is we would like them to work in some way, but we cannot say blanket, everybody must work in some way.
Right. And there would be, if there's physical limitations, you know, that type of thing. We would look at the totality of their compliance to the program and, you know, look at their compliance with all of the other things that we have prescribed for them. And had that been met, their physicality prevents them from working anywhere.
Anywhere.
It would
Yeah.
just look at the totality of their compliance, for lack of a better term, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
This is Alexis. I just think of like a couple of scenarios that have come up where this is the second or third time the person has diverted or has been in the program, and then we have required, because we felt, you know, this was a person who in the past had an issue, even if they were compliant with all the program requirements. So I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I'll break those down in like two separate sections. The first one that I'll address is they've been in our program previously. So our requirement, if they've been in our program previously and have not successfully completed the program, they get evaluated for patient safety, public harm, and they get potentially brought through the disciplinary process. Because they have not completed our intervention program and they went the disciplinary process, they are not eligible to enter the intervention program a second time. Our law that says if you complete the intervention program, every bit of that information is now destroyed and is confidential. Therefore, that is not something our committee is supposed to be taking into consideration. You're not supposed to know about that information unless they self-disclose. If they self-disclose that they have been in this program before, that is something that you can then work with. But the way that our law is written, and I'll pull that up, I saw some faces, so I want to make sure that I'm able to quote that for you, because that was actually something that sorry, just need to find it. Jaspreet, if you know the one right off the top, because I know that it has to go through you.
Purging of documents, is that what you're?
Our documents, this is Valerie again, our documents have stated whether applicants have been in the program before.
Yes, and we corrected that.
70.12, after the committee and the program manager in their discretion have determined that a registered nurse has successfully completed the intervention program, all records pertaining to the registered nurse's participation in the intervention program shall be purged.
And we do know that the prior system that was being used by the previous vendor retained that information, and that vendor is able to retain that information and turn it over for destruction and do that. What we learned is that information was not being purged. And so we did put processes in place to ensure that that happened, to block access to those records. Because if they have successfully completed, it's done, they've completed. So if the participant self-discloses that to you, and most of them will, they've said, you know, I've been in this program 8 years ago and I completed. That is something that you could kind of just keep in your mind, because it is a total picture, right? Because we will look at people that said, you know, I went through an outpatient program or an intensive inpatient program 10 years ago. I maintained my sobriety for 10 years. I felt really great about it. Now I had this life incident occur and I started doing this again. So with that information, because we do have to not have that information readily available, and not have that there, that is something that you would not routinely consider. Again, in a case by case basis, when they say, you know, this is what I did, well, then now all of a sudden that's information that's there and ready for you guys to take a look at because they shared that information with you.
But I'm curious, this is Valerie again, is that not considered relevant when they come in as an applicant to the program? Whether if they're diverting now, is it not considered relevant that they might have diverted once or even twice before?
So our board staff will know that they were in our program before because they have to check for eligibility. If they were in our program before and they successfully completed, they are welcome to come back into our program. If they were in our program before and they did not successfully complete, then they don't meet the qualifications to come into our program. So we will have a record of whether they were here or not. Whether they diverted previously, so you have to look at, and I know I'm speaking to the crowd, I apologize, but I don't know if we have public members and anybody else on the call here. So I want to kind of go into that a little bit and explain. So there is evidence out there that says rehabilitation sobriety takes approximately about 8 years. It's a long process. Our program is 3 to 5 years, right? In that 3 to 5 years, we look at, do you have the appropriate support systems in place that you are not a risk to the public? We may not be able to guarantee that they will never violate their sobriety or have any issue in the future because it is evidence out there. It takes about 8 years. So if a person does relapse, if they slip, if there's recidivism, and they are able to come back in our program, we're looking at what systems can be put into place to ensure that the patient safety, the public safety is maintained. If in that conversation, if in that discussion, you look at a history of their substance use, mental health issue, and it shows that this is something that has been ongoing, then you look at what is needed that can help to support them in their recovery going forward. So that information may be taken into consideration, but it's the act of diverting itself, although that is a huge risk for RNs that have access, we have no ability to control that. Right? So when they get a job outside of our program, they could work with narcotics. They could also not work with narcotics. We don't track their work. We don't track what they do once they leave us. And when you look at the evidence that it's typically an 8-year process, we would have to extend our program for 8 years to maintain that kind of oversight. And I don't see that happening. Our program is a 3 to 5 year program. So what you're really trying to do is look at how they're doing in their track to recovery, to patient safety based on that recovery. Did that help? I know that wasn't kind of cut and dry, but there's a lot of kind of nuances that come in with that, and it has to be on a case by case.
So this is Luann. In the past, when we've known that a person, this is their second time, getting through the program, the question has been raised to the participant that, what's different this time? Why do you think you'll be successful this time when you weren't? Theoretically, we should not even be allowed to ask that question, right?
No, you can ask that question. It depends on that information has been given to you typically by the participant when they go over their history, when they meet with their clinical evaluator, right? So when they meet with their clinical evaluator and that's taken into report, that's information that you have. They've shared that with their clinical evaluator. That is now discoverable. If you're having conversations with them and they talk about, when I was in the program previously, this is what I did, and this is part of it, because they're going to discuss their addiction history, right? They're going to discuss what they did with substance use back when they were a teenager forward. our program may be brought up. What we can't do is give you guys access to all of those records. We can't have you look at all of those records to be able to say, I'm going to evaluate those records and I'm going to compare them to here. Those records are gone. We are not supposed to retain those records. We are not supposed to have that as something that is considered unless they bring it forward, which 99.9% of the time they're going to bring it forward. It's going to be discovered on that clinical evaluation. It's going to be discovered in conversation when they're talking to their case manager regarding their history of addiction and how that worked. So it's going to be that kind of an issue.
So as
So
long as they disclose their history, we can ask a broad-based question like that, not specific to any one particular aspect of it, but we can ask, kind of what's different this time.
Absolutely. And that's a common question that's going to be asked to anybody, even if they haven't gone
Right.
through our program, right? If
Right.
they did their own outpatient rehab, if they did their own inpatient rehab 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that's a question you're going to ask. That's absolutely part of your assessment that you're
Okay.
going to take in. So when you're asking and reviewing them and working with them, looking at the history of their substance use disorder or mental health, you're going to say, what are some items that have worked well in the past? What are items that didn't work well in the past? It's going to be disclosed to you by them. But taking into consideration that they were in our program, looking at that different from they were in other programs and making decisions based on whether or not they were in our program, that should not be something that is actually held against them in any way when you're making decisions. That is something, it's just a history of they were in treatment before, they successfully completed, they maintained sobriety. You want to know what didn't work, what do they think will work, what are some of the stuff that they're doing to make that better. It's not about our program though. It's about the history of their substance use disorder, their mental health issues, and how they've managed that. So it's about that versus you were in our program. Does that make sense? Is that a little more clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussions before we open it up for public comment?
No, I'm satisfied.
Lori, any other comments before we open it up?
Goodness, I just want to make sure I covered kind of everything there. The February board meeting, there was discussion, John had brought that forward, that they did say, if there is a person that definitely has some issues that have come forward that you really do want them to go into a direct patient role and you do want them to pass narcotics. An example might be a nurse anesthetist. That's going to be their job when they're done, right? So having them kind of work in that, there might be something that has shown you as they've returned to their practice that you want additional information on that. I'm not saying target nurse anesthetist, I'll be very clear, because that was one of the comments that came up also. We are not doing that. I was just using that as a very easy example. There might be reason that you want to do that. If that is there and you guys make that recommendation, it just has to have the documentation. And what we're really asking you guys to do at that point is kind of early intervention. So in your intakes, in your first year, you want to start having the conversation with the participant and let them know that, hey, I do think that based on everything that's going on here, the evidence that's in front of us, you might need to, more than likely you will have to work in a direct patient role and passing narcotics. That way they can prepare for that. One of the issues that was really brought forward to us is, and we know that this is not a term that's used anymore, but they had completed 2 years, they were in their transition year. And they were 3 months, 6 months from completion, and they were told, whoops, you will have to do direct patient care. Well, then they were looking for a job for 3 to 6 months. Then they'd have to work in that job 3 to 6 months. We just now extended them a year in our program and they were expecting to complete 3 months from then. And so that was a complaint that was brought forward. That may happen, honestly, that may happen. There might be they might have been released as an RN, they might have gone back to work in patient care and maybe not had access to narcotics, but they still got the narcotic. They still got an issue, and there was a patient safety that came up. It was reported to you guys through the worksite monitor, or something to that effect came up. You may at that point say, you actually, we're gonna pull back really quick. You'll be extended in the program past 3 years, and we do want you to work and have narcotic access. We're gonna increase your monitoring during that time. That might happen, but that has to have the evidence for that to occur. It cannot just be something that, we do for everybody, because again, that was a common complaint. And in my investigation, it didn't lead to a single root cause for that, right? We did a huge root cause evaluation on that. Was that coming from IECs across the board that everybody had to do it? Was it coming from Maximus across the board that everybody had to do it? Was it coming from board staff saying everybody had to do it? There was no evidence that said it came from anybody. It looked to me, on really getting into it, looking at it, that it ended up being a telephone game, unfortunately. That there was conversation that was started, that conversation morphed, went into a different kind of form, morphed again, went into a different kind of form, morphed again, and all of a sudden it gets out to the participants that everybody has to complete. And that was, do direct patient care and passing narcotics. So the other consideration, and this was brought to me in a more recent discussion, is using the term passing narcotics. That may not be a term that we want to continue to utilize, because there are many medications out there that are addictive, that cause an altered state, that are not necessarily narcotics, correct? And so they may have Klonopin that's their drug of choice. Well, that's not a narcotic, right? So, but they might still have access to that and use that. So that's something, again, I want to have you guys take into consideration. Passing narcotics and their drug of choice is Klonopin, it doesn't necessarily make sense. So you might want to really take a look into what is trying to be demonstrated, so that you guys can ensure that when you make the recommendation for completion, that you have a good idea that they can practice safely and return to that practice, knowing that substance use disorder mental health there's not a cure. It's a management of, and they have to have those kind of protections in place. And when you look at the success of our program, our program is very successful. When you look at the recidivism within our program remains very successful. There are all 50 boards of nursing and 4 territories under National Council of State Boards of Nursing do not have a set standard for the intervention or alternative to discipline programs. And there are programs out there that actually require them to stay off work for the entire time that they are in a program. They might go through a 1-year or a 2-year program offered by another state where they do not work. And then they work once they completed that program. And there hasn't been any evidence that has directly come out that shows passing narcotics ensures sobriety going forward. That sobriety is not based on that. And I've reached out to NCSBN, I've reached out to the other kind of organizations, and still have not found evidence that supports that. Now, what we have done, and I believe that was in the report out as well, is we joined a study at National Council of State Boards of Nursing. The first study that National Council of State Boards of Nursing put out was that they were making recommendations of what the program should entail. We meet all of those recommendations. Our program covers all those. We are aligned with evidence-based. This second part, and we're actually going into the final 2 years of that, is people that have completed programs that meet all of those requirements and have returned to work. They're looking at recidivism specifically now. we will have that evidence in probably 2 years, 2.5 years when they write that up, and we will be able to demonstrate that effectively, that recidivism that we're worried about when they complete a program that has the requirements that our program has is a minimal issue. And in fact, other programs that may not be set up like ours actually are at higher risk.
Lori, this is Luann again. Would it be possible for us to change the language around having access to medications from, we specifically state that they're opioids or, but I mean, a big piece, you and I both know, a huge piece of nursing practice is to be able to pass all meds safely, and you can do just as much damage, sometimes if not more, at
Yeah.
least immediately by passing the wrong meds.
Yes.
That it's the right time, right patient, right dosage, the whole
thing, yes.
Is it possible for us as a board, because all the other boards would have to say that then as well, that we would change the language to the safe passing of medications, including, up to and including narcotics?
So we have to do that in a regulatory manner.
Okay.
And we would have to have evidence to support that, right? So the
Okay.
regulatory process is we meet with subject matter experts, we write language, we have to have evidence that supports every single requirement that we put into that regulation. And then it goes through a public vetting process and it goes through the Office of Administrative Law. It's usually a 1 or 2 year process. It's very intensive. And we may not get it based on whether we have the evidence to support the requirement. We don't have evidence to support a requirement because nursing is vast. I'm a nurse. I do not work in direct patient care. I do not pass meds, but I could, please don't take this literally, I could have a substance use disorder. I would be required to demonstrate that I could return to practice safely in a manner that would be different. If you looked at the trajectory of my nursing career, I haven't been at the bedside in 6 years. And putting me back at the bedside would be probably more of a patient safety risk than not. And making me pass narcotics when I've done admin for 20 years, that would be something to take into consideration. What are you trying to get through that? And if you look
Right.
at like my career progression, you look at my degree obtainment, it's very, very unlikely that I would go back and work in a labor and delivery or a pediatric unit or an ICU or an ED. I'm more than likely going to maintain an administrative academic kind of process. So it would not make sense to make me, taking that into consideration, go forward. I'm also, 10 years or so from retirement. Why would that be a requirement as a new to specialty, right? So when you take into kind of the consideration that has to occur for these people that are truly not going in that direction, they have to get accepted into a new to specialty support program, essentially, because they haven't done that. If they been a case manager for 10 years and you want them to work in a floor that has that,
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And then if we're putting it forward as a requirement to complete the program, they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I'll do it. But then they go in for their interview and they say, I need to do this as part of completing my program. That's a 3 to 6 months commitment. And if you look at the business in healthcare, the amount of money that is put in to support a person in a new to specialty or, some kind of orientation and onboarding and stuff like that, you're not going to have a healthcare agent that is going to want to invest that money if it's only going to be just to let them complete a program. And then you take into consideration, we have them doing all kinds of drug testing. We have them, they might be working already. They're doing all of their personal therapy, their group therapies and stuff. And then we add an additional work requirement to that. We have to have the evidence to support that requirement so that we can justify that additional ask. And if we don't have that, we can get a lot of that information from taking the whole picture in, looking at it and using your expertise, your professional experience to be able to say, I believe that they've demonstrated it this way, they can successfully complete.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Thank you, Lori, for that.
Thank you. I will stay for public comment in case there is any that I will need to respond to, and then after that, I will let you guys go on with your meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, any additional discussion? No. Okay, board moderator, will you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, I would like to make a comment. Please remember you'll have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests or comments on the WebEx. Do you have any? You have no representation there in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, for that presentation.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Moving
Bye.
on to agenda item 8.0. Board staff requests intervention evaluation committee members to review the IEC guide on an ongoing basis and offer feedback to staff regarding any areas where information could be developed further. The board is responsible for onboarding and training all IECs to ensure members are successful in their role. The board is seeking feedback from its IECs on regulatory changes that would help the board better fulfill its legislative mandate. IECs are responsible for evaluating registered nurses in the program according to the guidelines prescribed by the board. Those guidelines, which can be found according to the guidelines prescribed, which can be found under California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Sections 1446 to 1449, currently pertain to admission criteria, procedure to review program applicants, causes for denial of admission, causes for termination from the program, as well as other requirements. Madam Chair, would you please call for any discussion?
Do we have any discussion on this topic? Any concerns, questions?
Board moderator, will you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, I would like to make a comment. Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation there in your location. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 9.0. So discussion and possible action approval of the proposed 2026 IEC meeting schedule. Have all members had a chance to review the proposed 2026 IEC meeting schedule, and are there any questions? that a thinking?
I am thinking the only one that would be a problem is December 9th of 2026. And to be honest with you, I'm going to Mexico, but I didn't write the dates down, so I'd have to go back and research when we're going.
So that
Do we have any vacancies on this?
we have 2 vacancies. So the
Three
three,
of you.
the 3 of you, if one's missing, you would not have a quorum.
Is it expected that we'll be able to fill those vacancies by December of
We
next
would,
year?
we would hope so, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So if it's not till December, we should.
I'm going to be gone. So I'm gone December, sorry, I have to make notes of anything I talked about 2 days ago or months ago. It's December 6th through 13th.
Okay.
So that is,
And it looks like this is a priority to fill the vacancies for this IEC. So we should
Should
hopefully.
be okay by December.
okay, you want to just keep that date then and not try to change it? Okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the proposed 2026 IEC meeting schedule?
I move to approve.
This is Luann, I second.
So Alexis moves to approve, Luann seconds. All in favor?
You have to open that public.
Oh, excuse me. Board moderator, would you please open for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for a comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I would like to give a reminder as time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Meeting facilitator Gorney, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. You have no in-person representation in your location. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And before the committee votes, is there any additional discussion? We have a motion by Alexis to approve and a second by Luann. We will take a vote by roll call. When a member hears their name, please vote yes or no, no or abstain. Ms. Lemay?
Yes?
Ms. Lemay, yes. Ms. Blount?
Yes.
Ms. Blount, yes. And Ms. Milner?
Yes.
Ms. Milner, yes. So all in favor. Thank you. The committee will, agenda item 10.0, the committee will meet in closed session pursuant to Business and Professions Code, section 2770.10, and Government Code, section 11126, subdivision C2, to discuss and vote on matters related to intervention program applicants and participants. This meeting is recessing to go into closed session at 9:48 a.m. Open session will reconvene immediately following closed session.
Hi, this is Luann Lemay, committee chair. I'm taking roll. Obviously, Luann's here.
Valerie Milner here.
Alexis Blunt here.
And it is
427,
4:27 and we are convening, adjourning the closed session and convening the open session.
No,
Did I do that backwards?
we're just adjourning the meeting
We're adjourning the meeting.
at 4:28. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Well.